I want you to go ahead and take a look at these three shapes on the screen right now, and I want you to pause the video or just take a second to think, how would I actually model this in Blender? What would I do? Now, if you're, previously a CAD user or you're seasoned in Blender, this might seem pretty straightforward to you, but if you're new to Blender or you're doing this more inefficiently, this might seem like a tricky thing to model, and again, especially if you're a beginner. Now I'm going to show you a really cool trick in this video that is called cutting the cutter. And this is a very powerful technique that is going to save you a ton of time by simply leveraging Blender's Boolean. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you are new to Blender, if you're, still getting used to the modeling tools and you don't know how to approach something like this, then I would really recommend that you grab our accelerator program in the link in the description below. This is going to teach you our entire hard surface modeling workflow in under 2 weeks with about 30 to 60 minutes a day of practice, and you're going to get results just like thousands of our students have done here. And this is a guarantee. We're going to get you very, very good at modeling in Blender in a very short period of time. So I'd really recommend enrolling in that in the description below, especially if you're new. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to perform a Boolean on this object right here. I'm just going to use box cutter to save time, and we're just going to go in and we're going to cut a shape like this. Now what a lot of people might try to do is they might try to come in here and kind of finesse this in a different way. Like some people, I'll see beginners do this. They'll go in, they'll add a Boolean, and then they'll just try to overcomplicate this by, trying to extrude areas out. They might go in here, then they might try to extrude this over, and then you have this, geometry issue over here, and you have to reconnect it, and it's not going to bevel correctly. It's just like a pain, and I see beginners do this a lot because they're still not used to the modeling tools. Now there's a much easier way to do this, and although something like this would work, you could patch this up. You could go in here, connect these together. You could patch this up and it would work fine. It's going to take you a long time, and this is not an efficient way of doing things. Instead, what I would recommend doing is performing something called cutting the cutter. This is where you run a Boolean operation on an existing Boolean. Now, let me show you how this works. If I take this Boolean right here, let me just undo this so it's not applied. Now, if I take this Boolean cutter, which I have access to right here, and I perform a Boolean on this cutter, watch what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut in another shape right here real quick. What this is going to do is it's going to cut out this part of this initial Boolean, which is in turn going to reveal this main part of the mesh, because this part that we just had before, it no longer exists. So it's not actually, doing anything to this part of the mesh here. So what you're actually doing is you're running a base Boolean, and then you're running another Boolean on that cutter to kind of reveal this initial area right here. Now, the reason this is so powerful is because this is maintaining the integrity of the initial mesh. So if I actually went in here and I applied this Boolean now I have full access to all this geometry right here. You could go in, I could bevel it, it's not going to be a problem. Now, if you want to stay fully non-destructive, you can absolutely do that, and let me kind of show you how that would work. So let me just go in and kind of create the shape, from the image on the screen right now. I'm just going to go ahead and take this cutter that's on the cutter. I'm just going to kind of move this down a bit and just try to recreate that shape that we see, on the screen. So it's kind of something like this kind of shape. Now, if I wanted to bevel, say, this interior portion right here, well, I can't do it unless I apply this Boolean right here. If I apply that Boolean, then I'll be able to go in and mess with this geometry right here, no problem. But if I want to stay non-destructive, all I really need to do here is I just need to go in to this cutter, and if I want to have access to this geometry right here, what I need to do is apply the Boolean that's on this cutter. Otherwise, I won't be able to access it, as you can see. So if I go ahead and apply this Boolean that's on this existing Boolean, like that, now I have access to this interior geometry right here, but I'm still able to, maintain a non-destructive workflow. So I could actually go in here, I could bevel this area, create that nice rounded shape, and then I could go in here and bevel this area, and then I could go in here and bevel this area as well. Now you're going to see it's kind of messed up in this portion over here. What I'm going to actually do real quick just so that way the bevel isn't like rounded like that. Now this is outside the area we're beveling, so that's not an issue, but it is messing with the bevel over here. It's kind of transitioning in. So what I can actually do just real quick is, go in here, just kind of add a cut like that. And although it's messing with this side, it doesn't matter because again, I don't need to touch that area. It's kind of outside the boundary here. It doesn't matter at all. So I can kind of go in here, I can create that shape, right? And then I can go down here and I can do the same thing. I can just go in, I can, round out this area, and I'm quickly able to create these nice clean transitions on the original mesh without having to do any sort of complex, knife operations or anything like that. I don't have to do any loop cuts, I don't have to do any extrusions, and I can quickly add in, these nice clean transitions here. So I can, do that at any point in time. So now I still have full access to this cutter, and as long as, I don't move that area in, I can move this to the right or to the left a little bit, I can move this up or down, and I'm still maintaining, a full non-destructive workflow while working on this mesh. And again, if you want, you can obviously apply this Boolean if you're done with it and you're fine, you can continue on with your modeling. But if you want to maintain a full non-destructive workflow, this is a very, very powerful way to do it because you can create more complex shapes, by utilizing simple Boolean operations. All right, let's do another example here. This one isn't necessarily going to be using the cutting the cutter trick, but it's going to be using the existing Boolean, all right? So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to create this basic shape we see on the screen right now. And guys, these are really good modeling exercises if you're just trying to get used to the operations and things like that. So I'm going to create this shape right here. Now in this case, if I wanted to create this hole here in the corner, I'll see a lot of beginners do this. They'll go in, they'll try to like run another Boolean here in this area. And that would work, but you're going to have to reconnect these vertices here to kind of get it, flush with the face here. It's just going to be a pain. You're going to have to go in, you're going to have to connect all these up. You're going to have to add in a cut here to connect that up. It's just going to take you a long time. And I see beginners do this all the time and they're just wasting clicks. So what you can actually do again is you can just leverage your existing cutter while maintaining the integrity of the initial mesh. So I can actually go in here and I could go in, I could add a cut like this. I could add a loop cut here with Control R like this. Maybe move this down a bit. And then all I need to do is I need to take this face right here and just extrude it, all the way through. So E to extrude, it's going to cut all the way through. And again, I'm still maintaining the integrity of the mesh. If I apply this, right, the mesh is still, maintained very well. We might have these loops right here. If you want to get rid of those, you can just dissolve that. Or you can use something called a limited dissolve to get rid of that. And you're going to create these very quick shapes by just leveraging the existing Boolean operation. This is the correct way to create shapes like this, not doing everything manually, but working with the stuff you already have on the mesh. It's going to save you a lot of time. And if it's still a little bit confusing, all you need to do is just create a few basic shapes like this, get used to how the stuff works, and you're going to save a ton of time. And then again, if you wanted to just add in like another cut over here, you can absolutely do that. And you can just kind of play with these shapes very quickly. By the way, guys, if you're not using HardOps and Box Cutter, you're literally wasting your time. This makes our workflow 8 times more efficient. We've been using these tools for 6 years now. They're the best on the market, and I'd really recommend picking them up. No, we're not the creators. There's always somebody who's like thinking we're trying to push this down their throat to make money. That's not the case. We don't even own the add-ons. We just use them personally. All right, let's do one more example here. I'm just gonna restart the scene, and this one looks, a little bit complex on the surface, but again, all we need to do is just remove areas from the existing cutter. So I'm gonna go in, same exact idea. I'm just gonna go in and create that general shape, and then we're gonna work from that. So I'm gonna go in, create this shape, and all we need to do is just remove areas from the cutter to reveal these little crevices and things like you see in the reference photo. So all I need to do is go in here, create this, right? And then if I want to create, this area here in the back, all I need to do is go in, kind of cut this area to reveal that portion, right? And then I can go in and just kind of move this where I need to. So scale this a bit on the Y, right? Move this back a bit. And then what I can do is I can just go in, take this edge, bevel that, and if I want to create that little slant right there, well, that's fine. I can just go in, let me take this face right here. I can just kind of move this back a bit, right? And then just take this face, just extrude that through. Look at how quickly I created that shape. I didn't have to do any sort of loop cuts. I didn't have to go into edit mode at all. All I had to do was leverage the existing Boolean that I already had to create this shape. And then I can go into this side, cut out this area, the render that show what the back looks like, but that's fine. Then you can go in, you can create, whatever other cuts you want. You can go in and do that. Kind of move this around. And then if you want to, get more fancy, you can start using other tricks. Like for example, if you wanted to bevel this area, instead of going in and, applying all these Booleans to, do that, I'd have to go in and apply all these Booleans just to access this area to bevel it. Instead of doing that, you can start using other tricks, which I would really recommend. Like for example, instead of applying all the Booleans, I can just go in here and I can perform something called a reverse bevel. So what I would do is I would press Alt-N, I would flip the normals. So instead of beveling inside, when I flip the normals with Alt-N, it's gonna bevel in the inverse direction. So there's all these small little modeling tricks that a lot of people don't know about, and it's just really killing their workflow time. If you can just learn the basic modeling tricks, the basic operations, and just use what you already have available, your modeling workflow is going to be so much quicker, and you're going to save a ton of time, and you'll be able to quickly create, cool shapes like this just by knowing the basics. Now, these are obviously some pretty basic examples, but it hopefully demonstrates exactly how to kind of use these operations in the quickest time possible. So, if you're new to Blender, you're transitioning from another software, this is kind of how I would approach shapes like this in Blender without overcomplicating my workflow. So quick little video today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, if you want to learn our entire modeling system, start to finish in under 2 weeks, just like thousands of students have done here, we're going to get you very, very good at Blender in a very short period of time. And again, check out our accelerator program in the link below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.